Hello guys, um, welcome to testing concepts and learning video. Today I'm going to uh, discuss on testing techniques and test case design. This video basically concentrate on the beginners or freshers who are try to learn all these things. So for any software requirement, when we say we are testing, there should be a template and also there should be techniques to follow. So let's discuss one by one what is the template, what are the techniques that we are going to involve whenever we try to design test case, right? So let's talk that one by one. Let's begin with boundary value analysis first. Let's hold on for a minute. Directly I said boundary value analysis, right? So before that, let me give you the some context so that you guys can understand it easily. So as my previous videos, I have explained what is the SDLC process, right? It starts from the requirement, then design, then coding, then testing, then implementation, then maintenance, right? So the testing is part of the SDLC process. So when we say we are testing something, it should not be in a verbal format, right? I cannot say to my customer, hey, whatever the software you given to me, right, it's tested. So it should not be in that way, right? So I should give him a matrix, I should give him a template or documents to show or to tell him that these are all the scenarios that I have tested for your requirement. These are all my approach when I am testing the software. These are all my test cases where I have executed against a requirement and all of them got passed or failed or whatever it is, right? So there should be some metrics to be followed, documents should be followed, or documents should be given to a client saying that the software is tested. Then only it becomes officially you have tested, right? So it cannot be verbally to say I am tested this software. There is no issues, nothing like that, right? That is how the industry works. You should have some matrices, documents, and tool to execute on that, right? Yeah, let's say so during the SDLC process, right, when it's a time of requirement gathering, business analysts come up with the specification. They write down all the client given requirements in a document format. So then what happens, the dev team start looking the requirement, they start developing the software. So parallelly, testing team go through the requirements, they start identifying the scenarios, they try to understand the requirement, come up with the scenarios, internally reviewed, then they start writing the test cases. Normally what happens when it's a requirement analysis phase, testing team will come up with some scenarios, they will discuss with the business analyst, all of them get clarified, and what happens, they write high level scenarios. For example, take example of login to a page, any page, banking page or any page, right? So Facebook login. So what requirement says beginning, it's like there should be username text field, password text field, submit button, forget password button, and the logo should be placed in the right side of the corner or left side of the corner or whatever. They captured the details like this. So what happens, testing team will start looking at the requirements in very detailed way. So if for example, okay, there should be username text field, so what is the length of the username, so how many characters I can enter, right? If text field is there, for a username, we should know how many characters we can enter. What is the maximum? What is the minimum? What is the valid characters? What are the invalid characters? Right. So all these questions will be asked. Get the clarification from the BAs. Then you start writing the test case. So I assume that till now we are clear. We are going to test one login functionality where we have username, password and submit button. So now the next question we should ask, okay, we have these three things to be tested. Could you tell me the maximum and minimum value which username accept, which password accept? What are those values? What are the characters it can accept? Whether it's a alphanumeric, whether it's a alphabetical only, whether it's a numerical only. So all these details you can get it in a requirement specification, where a BA will capture all the details, necessary details. They will say username will accept 16 character in length, which accept only alphabetical or alphanumerical or numerical, right? Only small letters, small alphabeticals, something like this they will capture and they'll put. Basically they get this information from the client, right? Now I hope till now we are clear what is to be tested, where we are getting the inputs, right? So now get into details of how we are going to write the test case for this particular requirement, login functionality, right? So what happens generally when we are working in a team, a test lead or test manager who are going to assign a particular model to a team members. For example, login functionality given to some team. After login, there are some navigation to be tested. For example, if it is a Gmail, after login, what we do, we can send a mail, we can see the inbox, right? We can delete the mails, we can archive the mails. There are so many functionality inside after login also, right? So what they generally do, they divide the task to a members. That member will look into that particular requirement only, and they have to design the test case, right? Now let's see, I got login functionality module. Now as I said, I have already got the details from the requirement specification document, where the login page will have username, password and submit button. Username will accept some 16 characters, password will accept some 10 characters, and after providing a valid username and password, application should log into successfully. This is what I am going to test. Now since I have the requirement, since I know what to be tested, now it is up to me to come up with the scenarios, come up with the test case. To do this, what I have to follow in the software industry or in a testing of a software, whenever we write a test case, we have to follow three things. One is boundary value analysis, second one is equivalence partitioning, third one is error guessing. Okay, by applying these three techniques, I'm going to write test case. Let's see one by one what is boundary value analysis, what is equivalence partitioning, what is error guessing, and how I am going to write test case by applying these three techniques, right? So let's discuss one by one now. Now let's talk about boundary value analysis and equivalence partitioning of login page, right? So since I have got the requirement to test the login functionality, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to read functional requirement for a login functionality, right? As I said, business analyst will capture all the functional related requirements from the client, where they are going to mention what is the minimum character, what is the maximum character, how how the page should look and what page should accept and all that. A detailed level of requirement will be captured at the functional requirement specification, right? So now come back. Now see, as per the functional requirement of login page to test, username will accept 16 numerics in lowercase. Remember this and bold this, okay? It should accept 16 characters in lowercase, and it should starts min is 5 and max is 16. So let me say this is not numeric, so let me say this is characters, 16 characters in length, right? Let me say this. It should accept 16 character max, and the min value is 5 and max value is 16. That is for username. And let's say what they have written for password field, right? The password object takes alphabets in lowercase, bold it, in lowercase. The min value is 4 and maximum value is 10 in long, right? Now I got a functional requirement of a login page where I am going to test login functionality. The details are given to me is like username will accept 16 characters in length, where the minimum length of the character is 5 and the maximum character length is 16, and password will accept 4 to 10, that is minimum is 4 and maximum is 10 alphabets in lowercase. Both are in lowercase, remember this, okay? So now, as I said, we are going to apply some techniques to write the test case, right? So what is boundary value analysis and what is equivalence partition? Since you understood the requirement, right? Now whenever we say boundary value analysis, it will always apply on the given characters, where for example in the username 5 and 16 are the boundaries so your fields should be in that range, your characters should be in the range. Then what it means, you got the boundary 5 and 16, or some other requirement says 10 and 16, 0 and 16, whatever you, whenever you say min and max, right, that is your boundary. So remember this, when you got figure like this, minimum is something and maximum is something. For example, in this case minimum is 5, maximum is 16, then the boundary value analysis technique will tell you that whenever you are going to test a username field, then you should state by giving 4 character, by giving 17 character. What it means? It means you are going to test the boundary around the boundary, means 4, 5, 6, 15, 16, 17 is your boundary now. Means you have to make sure that your test case should capture the boundary values of min and max. In this case 4, 5, 6 is the boundary for minimum value, 15, 16, 17 is boundary for maximum value. So when I'm giving the boundaries like 4, 5, 6, for example, if I give only 4 character length in the username, application should fail. If I give 5 and 6 characters in the username, application will accept a value. If I give 15, it will accept a value. If I give 16, it will accept a value. If I give 17 characters in the username field, it will fail the test case. Now you got the point, right? Boundary value analysis means we test the boundaries of values by giving for example around the boundaries. For example, 5 means 4, 5, 6, 16 means 15, 16, 17, always minus actual plus 1 to actual, like that, right? So now let's apply that boundary value analysis, and this is what we get: 4 it should fail. 5, it should pass. 5, it should pass. Till 15, it should pass. Till 16, it should pass. If I give 17, it should fail. That is what I am checking the boundaries of min and maximum value. So now let's go back to the equivalence partitioning. What is equivalence? Equivalence, right? So if you carefully read the statement here in the functional requirement, they say in lower case. In boundary value analysis technique, what we did, we tested the corner values, right? We never looked into this thing. Now, by applying equivalence partitioning technique, we also trying to capture this statement. It means what? All these values, right? It should be in lower case. That is what we are going to capture in equivalence partitioning by saying valid is what, invalid is what. Valid is what? Lower case. All characters should be in lower case. And what is the maximum we got? 16, right? So 0 to 16, lower case should be your valid test case. Invalid means what? In capital letters, whatever we enter, A to Z alphabetical, that going to be invalid, and special characters going to be invalid because it should only accept alphabetical in lowercase, right? So blank also become invalid. So this is what error guessing and boundary value analysis and equivalence partitioning. So remember, whenever we get a min and max value, you should test corner of the values, min and max. Okay, that is called boundary value analysis. So equivalence partitioning is right. So whenever they specifically tell you that it should accept only lower, it should accept only alphabetical, it should accept only alphanumeric, so you have to think of equally partitioning the value and say that it's a invalid or valid and partitioning it. So that's how whenever you get a requirement, you read the requirement. After that you will apply boundary value analysis technique and equivalence partitioning technique, and you are going to create a scenarios like this before you start test case. Remember, before you start test case, you will read the requirement, you will understand the requirement, then you apply testing techniques by understanding boundary value analysis and equivalence partitioning. You create a design, means scenarios. Now there is one more is there, that is error guessing. Generally error guessing is what? So for example, this error guessing is always it's a requirement level or it's your previous experience level. For example, say you are trying to enter only password and you click on submit. What happens? Application will evaluate username cannot be empty, or vice versa. So all this comes under your error guessing. So you already know something is mandatory. If you miss that, you get the error, right? So all that you are going to put it in a scenario and write a test case. Now I hope we are clear. Whenever we get a requirement, what we have to do. After understanding the requirement, what techniques we have to follow. Once we are ready with the scenarios, how that scenarios are going to be converted into test case, that I will tell you. I hope as of now all these things are clear, right? Let's move on to test case design. Similarly, we can do password verification also, where I said alphabets in lowercase, 4 to 10 is the boundary. So here what? 3 become fail, 4 become pass, 8 become pass, and till 10 become pass, and 11 going to be fail. And same like 8 you said smaller letters will be accepted till 0 to 10, and capital letter of A to Z will be failed, special character will be failed, and blank will be failed. So now, since we got understand the requirement, we have also set the boundaries, value analysis, and also equivalence partition. Now let's create a scenario, right? Let's create a scenario. Now my scenarios will be derived from my test cases derived from my scenarios, right? So these are all the test cases I am going to have to test the login functionality. For example, I am going to enter valid value, and username is valid value, and password also valid value. Then my test case means application should pass the application is able successfully, I'm able to successfully submit the login button, and I'm able to log into the application. Okay, then whenever I enter username is valid, invalid password, application will validate by saying you have entered either username or password invalid. Some business error will be thrown, right? So like this combination, invalid valid, blank valid, valid blank, and all this combination I am going to test to a login functionality. So first, what we have to do, first get the requirement, understand the requirement, right? Then apply testing techniques, divide that into boundary values and equivalence partitioning, guess errors, then create scenarios based on your understanding, then convert all of them into a test case, right? That is where a tester's going to execute a test case and make it pass or fail, right? So now let's talk about test case design template. Normally when we use various tools, for example HP, ALM, QC, Bugzilla, MTM, NetTracker. There are so many test management tools where you can write the test case, or even some organization they prefer to have it in Excel also. So it depends on the organization to organization. More or less these fields will be common when it comes to test case template. That is title, objective, description, actual, expected, result. Sometimes what you will have, you will also have precondition, right? Precondition, and you can also have somewhere your author, and all that columns are customized in tool itself or in Excel itself. But these are all the details where the test case template will have, right? Now since we have all the boundaries decided, where equivalence decided, we got the scenarios, right? Now we have to convert that into test case. For example, now here I'm going to verify login functionality, successfully logged in functionality. What I did, in the title itself I'm going to say verify login functionality by providing valid username and password. So if you look at my scenario, first scenario, where I'm saying valid user ID, valid password, right? Application will accept the both. Now my objective is what? By giving this, what is I am going to achieve? I am going to achieve to verify when user provides valid username and password, application should log into the page successfully and navigate to the home page, right? This is what in the objective I will have, right? So now what happens, I am saying here, by giving the valid username and password, I'm going to achieve this object, right? So precondition, generally we can have like user should be user already registered, right? Then only you are able to successfully log in. Your user already registered in the system, something like that in precondition, right? Then actually description here I'm going to, it's a kind of steps, right? So what I do in step number 1, open gmail.com, enter valid username, enter valid password, click on submit button. This is going to be my action, right, where step by step I am saying follow this 1 2 3, right, click on submit button. So since I am giving the valid username and password, what is actually it's going to happen is application logged in successfully and navigate to home page, right? So during the execution we say as expected and result is pass. If you are using HPALM, in the execution time you have to mention what is expected, then you have to declare it is pass or fail. Here in this case, if you give valid user ID, valid password, it's going to be pass, right? So this is how we are going to write test case for any requirement I'm saying. Even you can have practice like you are in lift, right? So you have some 6 floors in that lift elevator, so you can create this set of scenarios like if you press 1, where it go, second floor, third floor, boundaries you can test, right? So also basement, right, -1 -2, something like that. And also if you can write a test cases for pen also, pen in the sense ball pen, right? So or ink pen. So what you basically come up with a requirement, divide the requirement into functional requirement. Once you have the functional requirement, apply error testing techniques like error guessing, equivalence partitioning, and boundary values. After that you create a scenario. Once you have scenarios ready, you create a test case for those scenarios. This is how you can test for any product, software, or whatever it is. So try to for beginners or freshers, I'm telling you, try to write more scenarios. Whatever, you can pick anything, TV, computer, laptop, mobile, whatever you see, you can always have test cases for that to test. So have this kind of practice, definitely you will become a good tester. And also I always tell you that testers should have the ability to break the system. It's always not necessary that you test requirement and make it as per the requirement we are delivering. No, you think out of the box, try to break the system so that end user should not break it. That is what our motto. So hopefully this video will help the beginner and freshers to understand what is testing techniques and test case design, what to apply, how to read the requirement, while reading the requirement, what we should understand from the requirement, how we convert the requirement into a test case design by applying boundary value analysis, error guessing, and equivalence partitioning, and how to create the scenarios from them. And once you have scenarios ready, how to test, how to write the test case, right? So in my next session I'm going to talk about if in case fail, basically what testers should do. And once we write the test case, what testers should follow. Since we write the test case, right, that should be reviewed internally in a team. So how that review will happen, right? So after that, how we can execute these test cases, all these topics I will cover in my next video. Thanks for watching. Thank you.